You are now rocking with the 3-yard play.
Right.
We just figured out a 3-yard play, fam. We're gonna win every time.
Yeah.
Hit that link with you. Come on in.
You're tuned into the 3-Yard Play podcast. Well, the only question is, does it work for you?
Trail got wings, bitch.
We've been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year. We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year. We live in weight just to hold up the trophy. Flag on the plate, cause them haters can't hold me. And 1, 2-a-days and run up the biggest hill just to sharpen up my skills. They hit the scoreboard first, I had to hit them drills. Time I get around the corner, they gon' see my new wheels. After practice, till the lights come on. Till they bust ride out and they gone. That rally had us pep, my teammate down the steps. Player, we got plays you ain't even seen yet. I post up and fade away like graffiti. Just don't claim it's love when you see us on TV. We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year.
3-Yard Play podcast.
We been working
brought to you by reality.
all year.
Where it is what it is.
Game time.
You get what you get.
We all here.
So comment and let us know where you live.
Yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the 3-Yard Play podcast. This your boy Trip. What up, T-Mo? What's up, LJ?
Chilling, bro.
Hey, still on that championship. Dig it.
Yes, sir.
Dig it.
All
Congratulations, too, man.
Back to back. Yeah.
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 Hey, on a more somber note, man, before we get too turned in here, this week the topic that we're going to address is tragedy brings out more of who you are or reveals who you really are. Overall, it's looking at the idea of in the wake or in the aftermath of someone passing away, a lot of times other people's true colors are revealed. You know, as people deal with situations, be it emotional or involving property or even just trying to get the final arrangements together, a lot of times, you know, you can see the ugly side of folks in the midst of the emotion. So that's something that we want to address and just talk about as a team or as a family today, you know, and we kick the ball. Does anybody want to really address it first or?
Man, you know, I think that's always been a topic for me. I got family members who, you know, I feel like they don't really come around or you don't really hear from them until there is tragedy, you know, and I've been kind of trying to express a different mentality to that side in the sense that I feel like, hey, let's keep in contact before the tragedy. You know, that'll let me know if you're really genuine. You know, sometimes I'll get invited to a funeral of a relative, a distant relative. You know, I've never even really had any conversation with the person, don't really know the person. And I had to explain to them, hey, quit calling me just when someone passes away. And I'm supposed to come and act like I was sad or, you know, I'm sad for that person. Don't get me wrong, but it's I feel like in a way that's phony because I could have showed some type of interest in this person while they're alive. You know, we can do that while people are alive. Why are we always waiting? And it's almost like a false sense of wanting to be a soldier or something, you know, to talk about war stories and stuff like, oh, somebody passed away. Let's talk about that. No, let's talk about the living. Let's give people their flowers while they're here, you know, while they're alive and on the surface of the earth. So yeah, I've had this conversation with that side of the family, man, and it's some of it's come on, you know, deaf ears, but then some people have started to change. But yeah, man, it's sad. I feel like that we always want to come together at the most tragic moments. You know, it's a catch-22. Sometimes, you know, it does bring the better out of people, but I'm seeing a lot of times in those situations, especially when money is involved, uh, you see the ugly, you know.
Right.
It's different.
Right. Now, my experience is, I guess my story is a little different in that I was blessed to really not lose anybody close to me until I was well into my adult years. You know, I was about 26, 27 before I lost my first elder aunt. You know what I mean? And then I was 28 when I had all four grandparents. You know what I mean? So I was always on the outside looking into other people's stories and seeing what you all are talking about. You know, what that LJ mentioned, and kind of always trying to be purposeful and intentional about not going down that route. You know what I mean? So when I lost my dad, I came in with a different mindset. Like even my brother and I, we talked about it, a lot of things, and what it came down to, like my mom was like, "Hey, y'all want to get stuff from your dad?" He's just like, "Nah," you know, a lot of that. I felt more the loss and the hurt than the other stuff around it. You know what I mean? From that perspective. But then what I also noticed is when I did lose my grandparents, that was the beginning of the deterioration of the family in terms of our just that camaraderie, that closeness, that unity.
Right.
We so divided. We're so scattered about, and most of my people in Atlanta. We all over. We very rarely see each other. We at the point now. I'm guilty as charged myself, but we texting each other on birthdays, and instead of making phone calls. I grew up with everything was celebrated in the Grand Range. I mean, we get a bucket of chicken and a cake and have at least saying happy birthday and meet up at grandma's house, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just kind of get in. And so I would say what it revealed the most was we're not as close as we thought we were. You know what I mean? And it's not like no love is lost. It's just that, hey, those bonds weren't as strong as grandma and them wanted them to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I think Tripp mentioned, when the glue of the family, the bonds that hold us together go apart, what are we doing to kind of keep things rolling? And the only time now is when we see tragedy again, is when we come back together. We have to lose somebody to have a family reunion, if you will. So now I get it, man. But that's a tough one.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I brought the topic up, and after I put it out there, I kind of felt conflicted in my spirit because if I'm honest with myself, you know, my father passed away a few years ago, and in the process of him passing away or handling his arrangements after he passed, you know, my siblings and I really got into it, you know, just as to how things should be handled. And I'm not somebody to really try to put family business in the public, but it was a situation where I think overall, me being single person, no kids, and people view it of, oh, okay, he works in this profession, so he should be able to pick up the tab for X, Y, and Z. And it's like, this is all our father, you know. I understand everybody's in different positions, but you know, we can't count each other's pockets, and this is all of our father.
Right.
You know, it's not on this. I, I know a great deal he did for all of us, you know, so we all shared in this. It's not any one person's responsibility, you know, and sometimes I think people wind up in that situation. Then you have the exact opposite situation sometime of too many chefs in the kitchen and too many people wanting to make decisions or wanting it to be, you know, one thing or decide who's going to get to speak or what the program's going to include, who's going to be featured on this or things like that. You know, I think overall it's really just sad, and I think in the trauma of it, the emotions are heightened. You know, so as the smoke cleared, I tried to step back and think about it. Well, I know my father would want me to have love for my siblings and us to still have relationships moving forward, and that's something that you know he spent a lot of time trying to instill and facilitate. So overall, I think that would be his wishes. You know, but to say to myself, do I not feel a way? Yeah, I mean, I felt the way at the time. You know,
Right.
and it's different with siblings and your friends, and that your friends are people you choose to spend time with.
Right.
Siblings sometimes are people that you know you may or may not choose to spend time around each other. You just happen to be born into a familiar relationship, you know, and that sounds harsh to say, but I think there's a lot of people in America that go through stuff like that. and I do love my siblings. But in the wake of my father's passing, it has been. I feel like the relationships hadn't been as strong as they were before, and some of it has to do with technology. Thomas, when you were saying that the love wasn't what we thought, I think we're just overall in a different time. And these days we have a lot more options than to communicate, with friends or loved ones or relatives or anybody. A lot of people are just way more plugged into what they got going on in their technology and kind of their own lane, you know.
Yeah, yeah, man. I think you hit on a couple of topics there, man. And see, and like you, when my mom passed, that's when I got to see a lot of different mindsets as far as how people really what people really thought of my mother. You know what I mean? My mother was the glue. So if she wasn't around, those things that needed to happen for the family on her side of the family on her side didn't happen really. You know what I mean? She would drive. She's from Tennessee. She would drive all the way to Tennessee every month to make sure that her mother and all them were taken care of. So when she left, it was and they were there. They were already in Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that she had to leave and come all the way to Tennessee to make sure things happen while people were there wouldn't do it. That lets you know that family sometimes I don't know if it was a laziness or I don't know, but it wasn't equal. It wasn't equal. Love as far as action. People say they love you, but at the end of the day, it's basically your actions are going to show that person what you feel. So yeah, people came out of the woodwork, man. They came out
Right.
of the woodwork, and even to the point where, hey, we want a portion. You know, when the portion that you could have had was a part of her life. You know, while she was here, and none of them were. So yeah, sometimes I feel some type of way about that, but then I also have to pull myself back and understand that everybody doesn't come from that same cloth. You know what I mean? So I can't hold everyone to accountable or to that same standard. You know what I mean? And I just had to be the better person myself and just and continue to instill family. You know what I'm saying? Still instill that idea of being a unit and caring about people while they're here.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now it's funny you bring that up because now that I'm maybe to process a little bit more, I want to make sure I immediately just say this. Give my boy Trip his flowers. I talked about kind of family division, but I had a lot of friends that that
Appreciate it.
became family that showed up and showed out. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
with that being said, it always warmed my heart when my mom would say, "Hey, I talked to Trip today." I'm like, you call to check in on my mom. You know what I mean? Like for real though,
Yeah,
that
that's
that
real.
meant a lot though. You know
That's
what I
real.
mean? So even times when I'm not there for around,
Mhm.
I still got people in my life that still check in on her to make her whole. You know what I
Right.
mean? And let her know that she's been acknowledged and recognized, and people still thinking about it and checking on it. That means a lot to me, bro. So let me just say, just straight up right now, I don't know if I ever did thank you, but thank you,
Oh
man.
yeah.
You know what I
Nah,
mean?
you
Really.
welcome, bro. I mean, I'm just smiling big because I'm thinking of your pops, man. Just how cool your dad was, and your
Yep.
family in general, your mother as well.
Yep.
Like, man, your parents just always showed so much love, man. They never made me feel like outsider. They made me feel like one of their own kids in terms of just a level of sincerity and concern, for whatever I
Right.
had going on whenever I interacted with them. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, because I start now reflecting back in the mental UVA days. You know what I mean? Trip said, "Hey man, I'm like I said, we didn't see each other often at that time, but he's just, hey man, I'll be opening for Outkast." And I'm like, "What?" Man, I really rented a car, drove up to
Hey, you
UVA.
showed up, yeah, all the way from
Uh,
like, wow.
And so, like I said, I forget about some of those things, and based on like where we are today. You know what I mean? Like we lose some of that. Like I said, as I was sitting here trying to get into that pity session of the trauma and how it brings out the negativity, it's just like some just say, "No, bro, just remember some of that good that came out of some of these situations, and and some of the bonds that were strengthened
Right.
in that tragedy and that trauma. So, like you say, a lot of the things get revealed. Your character is revealed. Your
Right.
true character is revealed in those moments. And like I said, that's my bro. You too, LJ. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It just we go through so many things that sometimes even now in this moment, I guess I'm having me one of these, what you say, those sensitive moments right now. But I'm starting to really remember how we all came to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was a lot of trials and tribulations that kind of formed our friendship and allowed us to be where we are today.
Right.
And knowing that we can count on one another as we move forward.
Right.
I think you hit on the real point, man. I appreciate you for pulling up to that show too. I was blown away. A lot of people tap. You really showed up on that. I appreciate that. But you hit on a great point, man. Of a lot of times when people pass away, there's a lot of people that really step up too, and you get to see them real, friends, family, real MVPs. Or like you had them cool cousins, aunts, uncles.
Right.
Relatives you usually don't even get to be around as much, but when you're around them, it's like, oh man, I love spending time with this person. I be forgetting because the moments be brief, or a lot of times we just have a whole nother mission that we handling.
Right.
But you get to see, like it's always great, man, when people will go that extra mile or do the things they don't necessarily have to do. How your family will open their homes to you. And it's like, wow, nobody else would just let me come in their home, enjoy myself to this degree and make sure that, okay, everything is fine. Or you realize the older you get, how much the provisions just cost. When you were young, you used to just be pulling up the events. Now you get old, like, $300-$400 worth of shit.
Right.
Like Uncle such and such used to be showing out. Auntie such and such is really, really going out their way for us. So the older you get, the more you also recognize and just respect the contribution, of the family that you have. And then you also get a chance to be around people who don't have family or don't have as many family members as you may be used to, or folks whose people have already started to transition, and you recognize just the value of it, So overall, man, we just get that one set. I'm gonna throw the flag on myself, man, because everybody could, we could all go on about how much we love our loved ones.
Right.
It is interesting sometimes when the smoke clears, when people pass away, the things that you see really start to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I just want to do a quick shout out. I want to shout out to all those folks who stood in and stepped up for me though, and a lot of the relationships that I didn't necessarily know had as much value as they did until I was in my dark spaces. So I just want to say, I'm not going to name names because I know I'm going to forget some people, but just know that if you love me, I love you just the same.
And I'm in mind with, a lot of people know my story. They know where I came from and things like that. So, and when I lost my mom, I was at my lowest moment in my life. So I want to thank those people who came and showed love and showed my, that support for me at that time too. But I also want to just say in a positive note, like going forward, hey, everybody, let's just celebrate life. I think we get in a tradition of celebrating death so much that it becomes like some type of rite of passage or badge of honor or something that, we get to talk about death. But going forward, how about let's celebrate life? Let's, call or, I know it's technology that keeps us, kind of a little bit lazy in our interactions. But hey, anything though, you know what I'm saying? Just to let the person know you're thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, show up. Go to your grandma's house. Go to your homeboy's house. Somebody, just hey, what's up? How you doing? That right there can go a long way, man. And you never know how people are feeling. The world's become a closed-in environment now. From the pandemic, people not wanting to be out as much, or now they're cautious of how they move. So, hey man, let's celebrate life, y'all. Let's celebrate life.
I can't end on a better note.
For sure.
Absolutely. And I think this in closing, man, I saw somebody on Instagram the other day that mentioned the idea of rest in peace versus live in peace. You know, saying we always say rest in peace, rest in peace. And some people take for granted, but man, we need to tell one another, live in peace. The person that's passed away, they are on to the next realm or whatever it may be. So, the idea of them resting in peace is, more theoretical than if we were here and we lived in peace.
Right.
Then we may get more living to do. So, with that in mind, man, let's live in peace. And, shouts out, one love to my family, my friends, my loved ones. I appreciate everybody that's been there for me. I definitely had ups and downs. So, you all know who you are. I love you. Hope I can be there for you when you need me. And, overall, man, 3R Play Podcast, the question we got for him, man, what is the question, fellas?
Does it work?
Does it work
for
for
you?
Real talk, man. Does it work for you? So that's what you got to ask yourself out here. And check it out, man. Follow, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the feedback and people that have been checking in and letting us know that you're watching, man. We see it in the analytics, so that's cool.
Yeah. Thank y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
We out.
You see, the thing that separates us from every other group of slaves is the fact that
Thank y'all for tuning in today and every day. And remember to keep running your 3R Play.
Look at them mouths, we feel like flowers, they gon' grow. We gon' water the season, watch that harvest flow. I've been crunching
Cause we know heroes are made in the off season.
There should be no reason
and grind the slow, better than crashing out
we
for
get that
dough.
money bound for what we don't want it.
Say, young brothers, remember,
Don't fulfill the promise.
I ain't never
3 yards every day.
Officer,
They can never
I can't
stop.
read that narrative, so ain't no need of calling us. You ain't never had to tell your kid being black was a sin, cause his skin was reflected through America. Taking care of us was just a handout, right? But it was fair when free labor was just as nice. I can bet you your life, your kids living alright. Cause me and mine had to
been
do
rocking
it or
with the
die every
3R
single
Play
night.
Podcast.
I get mine, yeah. You get up, yeah. But together, nigga, we gon' get some more, yeah. Look at them mouths, we feel like flowers,
So
they
like,
gon' grow.
subscribe,
We
share,
gon' water the
and let's
season, watch that
discuss.
harvest flow. I've been
What's up with
crunching
us?
numbers, winter, fall, spring, and summer. There should be no
Thank
reason
you.
that the babies
Tuning
never
into
hunger.
3R
When we get
Play
that money
Podcast.
bound for, we don't run it. I only
Put a
pledge
focus onto
allegiance
it.
to go fulfill the promise.